My sister and I were born together, but this life she handed me her gloomy, clingy, yet ridiculously wealthy husband, and in exchange, she married into Claudia's newly bankrupt family. Sister, it's your turn to experience life with the pervert, she smirked. This so-called pervert greeted me by wrapping himself around my arm, muttering in a low, obsessive voice, "Wife loves me more," while casually transferring me 3 million yuan every single month. Clingy? Sure, weird, maybe, but rich. Oh, absolutely. The day I opened my eyes in this life, I woke to the sound of my sister Calypso arguing fiercely with our parents about marrying into the Claudia family. That's when I knew she had also been reborn. My parents' faces had gone stiff. They had always doted on her, even though I was the older one by a year. In every lifetime, in every situation, I was expected to step aside for her. Claudia's family has just gone bankrupt. My mother said gravely. It will be difficult for you there. Let your sister go instead. She's older. She can endure. But when Calypso heard them say no, she burst into tears, threatening to starve herself to death if she didn't get her way. It didn't take long. Our parents caved. My mother turned to me, her tone cold and sharp. You should thank your sister. I nodded silently. Not because I was truly grateful, but because I knew how to bide my time. As she passed me, Calypso leaned in, whispering with a smug little smile, "Sister, it's your turn to taste life with the pervert." But this time, I smiled back. Did she really think marrying into the down and out Claudia family was going to be her golden ticket? I knew better. In our previous life, their fall from wealth was only the beginning of their misfortunes. But blinded by greed, Calypso still chose Draco, the eldest son of the Draco family, without hesitation, dreaming of her perfect, rich wife life. She thought she had tricked me into taking the gloomy, possessive man she didn't want. Who would have guessed Draco was the kind of man whose clinginess was matched only by the depth of his pockets. He not only threatened her not to have any bad ideas on her wedding day, and to be a good wife at home, but he was also discovered self-harming in the study. Calypso attempted to flee after learning of the situation, but was apprehended by the bodyguards and imprisoned at her home. She finally couldn't take it and eloped with someone else after Draco discovered her. Calypso has been disgraced since their divorce. However, with the help of my husband, Claudius, I began from scratch and became a successful female entrepreneur. Claudia frequently stated that contemporary women should create their value, rather than relying on men to survive. Because of these words, I will continue to support Serafina as long as she is willing to do so silently. Claudia was regarded as an excellent wife. In the new era, the people in the circle made me the envy of many wealthy wives, but this did not last long. Calypso invited me to her room at a family banquet, where she set fire to my death. Calypso grabbed my leg tightly with a ferocious face in his final moments of life. Abu Serafina had failed, she claimed. I've always been better than you since childhood. Why are you living better than I right now? Even if I die, I will take you with me. The burning pain of the fire still makes me shudder when I think about it now. Now, in this life, looking at Calypso's confident expression, I shook my head helplessly. Without me, how could the Claudia family have made a comeback? My wedding date was one day before Calypso's. Calypso has been bragging to me about Claudius's kindness to her lately. Every day, he carefully watches over her and follows her around. In contrast, Draco has not visited me once. Every time I hear this, I can't stop smiling. Claudia's family went bankrupt. Aside from being good to you, what else can he do? When a man is kind to you, you become the moon in the sky. When he no longer wants to be good to you, you are like dirt that can be trampled at will. The Draco family is more pragmatic. In just a few days, they have brought countless betrothal gifts, under my strong request. My parents reluctantly included some of the betrothal gifts in my dowry. Our family arranged the marriage alliance with the Draco family to help the Calypso family's business grow. Regarding the Claudius family, it is because our two families have been engaged since childhood. Before the Claudius family's bankruptcy, we were also well matched. Calypso's father doesn't want to be perceived as snobbish now that the Claudia family has gone bankrupt, so he can only bite the bullet and carry on. This engagement on the wedding day was highly valued. I finally spotted Draco. His nose was high and straight, and he wore gold-rimmed glasses. His entire body exuded a cold and solemn air. There was no indication that he was someone who would self-harm. When the MC announced that the groom could kiss the bride, I took a subconscious step back. Draco wrapped his hand around my waist, forcing me to come close to his chest, where his cool lips kissed me. At night, he sat on the sofa, his tie loosely around his neck and his shirt half open, exposing his muscular chest. At the time, I noticed a trace of clinginess on him. He suddenly reached out, grabbed my chin, bent down, and looked directly into my eyes. His eyes grew slightly darker. Your Calypso family begged for this marriage. Now that you're married, put those evil thoughts behind you. I'll give you 3 million yuan per month. You only need to perform well in front of others as Mrs. Draco. I don't like it when others covet my things. If you don't listen to me, I can't promise what I will do. Before Draco could finish speaking, I pulled down his tie and kissed his lips. My gaze has been drawn to the inside of his shirt only recently. Because of the bending action, Draco's beautiful muscle lines and blocky abdominal muscles were all visible. Who wouldn't find this fascinating? After a while, I let go of him and noticed Draco's red ears. My hand involuntarily touched his abdominal muscles. I placed my lips next to his ear and exhaled hot air. Husband, you have an incredible body. Now that you've finished speaking, should we proceed to the next step? Draco's body trembled, and his voice became hoarse. What are you doing now? I raised my eyebrows. I can exercise my rights as a wife, right? Feeling my provocation, Draco laughed lowly. The man took off his gold-rimmed glasses and kissed me wildly with an overpowering and scorching heat that I couldn't resist. I felt like I was going to melt while drowsy. I had to admit that men and women have different levels of strength. I was already exhausted, but he remained tireless. The next day, when I awoke, it was already afternoon, and there was ointment besides the bed. Draco should have prepared it. He had a kind of conscience. I took a bath and prepared to head downstairs for dinner. The butler handed me a secondary card of Draco. The young master said, "You can buy whatever you want." I accepted it gladly. It feels great to get money without having to work long hours or look at the faces of previous investors. After I married Claudius, I moved into a run-down rental house. They advised me to be frugal and manage the household, but they spent lavishly themselves. They quickly squandered the entire dowry I had brought. Given the time, Calypso should have married into Claudia's family by now. My parents previously stated that I did not need to attend the wedding. I'm not sure what kind of mood she'd be in when confronted with the wolves and tigers in this family. But after some thought, I realized that I should please Draco the Gold Master even more in the days ahead. When Draco ate, I served him food. Draco was tired, so I massaged him. When Draco asked to take a bath, I quickly ran the hot water. Draco was initially uncomfortable. I am capable of performing these tasks on my own. How could this be? Didn't you ask me to be a good wife? Husband worked hard. Of course, your wife should take good care of you. It's because I took so much money and would feel bad if I didn't do anything. Draco did not respond and maintained a cold expression, but I noticed the corners of his mouth raised behind my back. When I had nothing else to do, I would go to his company and deliver him lunch. After becoming a female entrepreneur in a previous life, I understood why 9 out of 10 presidents have stomach problems. They don't have time to eat when they are busy. After I had completed my duties in Draco's office, I noticed a female secretary wearing a deep V-shirt. Her eyes were nearly dripping with tears as she stared at Draco. While eating, I pretended to say casually that your secretary is quite attractive and has a good figure. Draco immediately understood what I was saying and didn't look at me. Just saying, don't be unreasonable. I secretly glared at him. However, when I returned later, Draco had been replaced by a male secretary. I heard that the female secretary was transferred to serve as the secretary for other senior executives. So he's still an awkward and proud man, originally destined for failure in this life. I expected our relationship to improve over time, but one day he started avoiding me. He slept in the study every night under the pretense of working. We used to be able to share breakfast, but now I barely see him. Even if I'm stupid, I'm sure he's avoiding me. I had planned to wait for him at home today and ask him directly, but then I received a text message from a friend inviting me to afternoon tea. When I arrived, I discovered Calypso was also there. The dazzling jewelry on her body was gone, and the bag she carried was from last year. Claudia's family appears to have suffered greatly, but she maintains a cheerful demeanor. Only when she saw my entire body in a limited edition did she get a strange look in her eyes, and quickly returned to normal. When others asked when she would have a baby, Calypso's smile froze. My husband said, "Don't worry, he can't bear to see me become a mother at such a young age so that we won't think about it." In these few years, everyone immediately praised Claudius as a rare good husband based on Calypso's performance. She should have noticed. Of course, Claudius is not in any hurry. I am afraid she will be in a hurry. When Calypso saw my uncontrollable smile, he glared at me fiercely. When her gaze fell on the red marks on my hands, she smiled proudly again. "Sister, what is wrong with your hands? I've heard that Draco has a bad temper. Could he have hit you?" I examined the red marks on my hands. It was made by Draco, but not through hitting. It was tied with his tie. Draco is truly a beast now. When I think about the scene from that time, I can't help but blush in the eyes of others. They all believed I was guilty. Calypso was in a much better mood. Sister, a marriage without love is truly pitiful. After the party, Claudius took a taxi to pick up Calypso, and everyone around him was envious once more. I'd already called the driver at home to pick me up, but Draco arrived before I even left the store. I saw him sitting in the car, waiting for me. Our gazes met, and I couldn't help but quicken my pace. Calypso suddenly extended her foot and tripped me. I nearly fell, and the waiter next to me helped me up. Thank you. I thanked the other person and looked up. I noticed Draco had already gotten out of the car. His eyes were cold, and he was staring at the waiter's hand on my shoulder. Draco quickly approached, checked me over to ensure I wasn't hurt, and then dragged me away without saying anything. Perhaps Draco's aura was so powerful that no one dared to speak, and everyone looked sympathetically at me. Calypso slowly opened her mouth, and I knew from the shape of her mouth that she was saying, "Sister, good luck in the car." Draco didn't do anything to me and just drove silently without saying anything. His face softened gradually, and the air pressure around him decreased. This man coaxed himself. As soon as we arrived home, Draco was about to enter the study. I couldn't help but ask, "Will you stay in the main bedroom tonight?" Draco turned his head. The hint of an adult was clear enough, and we both understood each other without saying a word. A word. Draco walked up to me, grabbed my waist, and hugged me into his arms, a sick and charming smile on his lips. "Are you not afraid of me?" I raised my eyebrows and kissed the man's Adam's apple. "Terrified of you. What? Let me try something else." This time, Draco's breath caught, and the patience in his eyes faded. "Serafina, don't you dare ask me to stop later," he warned. Then his hands moved slowly across my shoulder. His voice called for ice. "Where did he touch you? Just now? Here or here?" Oh no. He planned to settle scores after the event. Before I could react, Draco bit my shoulder hard, causing me to let out a soft moan. Draco lowered his head and kissed me, silencing my voice. That kiss seemed to be enchanted, and I became wholly immersed in it. In the end, I could only hold him tightly. In the middle of the night, I felt someone lightly stroke my cheek. "Serafina, you were the one who first provoked me. I will not hold back anymore. And please do not consider running away from me in the future." In the days that followed, Draco spent increasingly more time at home. He stopped going to the study at night and insisted on holding me in his arms to sleep every night in my previous life. Calypso's words indicated that Draco's study contained numerous self-harm tools. Naturally, I hoped he would stay away from that study. When he was sound asleep, Draco's head would unconsciously bury in my arms and rub against mine, murmuring, "Honey, I love you more." It was in complete contrast to his cold and restrained demeanor during the day. According to Butler Chan, Draco used to have to take a lot of sleeping pills to fall asleep. However, since he was with me, he had not taken any. I was glad I could help him. When Draco left for work, I was not idle at home either. Using my previous life's memories, I invested the money Draco gave me and the dowry I brought from the Calypso family in several promising funds and stocks, making a lot of money in a short period. I've also become a relatively wealthy woman. To hell with being a strong woman. I want to be a rich woman in this life. There are far too many definitions and requirements for women in the world. Women, whether they are career elites or housewives, should not be defined by ideas. As long as I am willing, I can play any role. Later, when I returned to the Calypso family to retrieve my old belongings, I overheard my mother on the phone with Calypso. From their conversation, I learned that Calypso had come to borrow money. My mother couldn't afford to lend her such a large sum of money. Calypso requested to borrow it, stating that she intended to start a business and needed startup funds. If my mother did not help her, she might as well die. My mother eventually agreed. Hearing this, I lost interest and turned back to leave my previous life. Claudius also asked me to go home and borrow money for business, but I declined. A short-term handout could not provide long-term stability. The ability to stand on your own 2 feet is the most critical aspect of living a fulfilling life. So I started with a small store. Because I couldn't afford to hire anyone, I did everything by myself. Every investment was obtained by me drinking and smiling. But what was Claudia doing at the time? He would put on an act at home, be lazy, and was addicted to smoking, drinking, and gambling. Calypso believed that with enough money, she could gain freedom and become the strong woman everyone envied. She had no idea that true freedom never existed in this world. If you want to break free from the cage, you can only rely on your natural abilities. I didn't expect Calypso, who was in trouble both internally and externally, to find time to cause trouble for me. I'm not sure when it started, But people around me began to spread rumors that Draco was a pervert and that he constantly abused me at home. The marks on my body were said to be from him beating me. After sending someone to investigate, it was discovered that my dear sister spread it, but he did not cause the marks on my body. However, I couldn't explain to everyone individually how the marks on my body appeared. At night, I bit Draco's shoulder hard and became angry. Could you be more gentle in the future? You have no idea what rumors are circulating outside right now. Draco paused and smiled self-deprecatingly. Maybe I am a pervert. Then he grabbed me tightly in his arms. Will you abandon me if I'm a pervert? Draco's tone conveyed an imperceptible fear. I lifted my head and kissed him. Who doesn't have psychological problems these days? I also have them, so neither of us should despise the other. During those days, I could feel Drake's kindness towards me. He almost granted every one of my requests. I had never felt love before, but now I knew what it was like to be cared for by someone. I admit that I was also moved. When Draco heard my words, he smiled, as if relieved. Because I cared about him. I wanted to learn more about Draco. Draco's body was covered in scars, including those left from cutting his wrists. I tentatively asked him where these wounds came from. Draco did not want to answer. If I pressed him any further, he would kiss me hard. Later, I still learned something from Lurchin, but he was an old servant of the Draco family. He knew many unknown facts about the Draco family. He informed me that Draco was kidnapped by human traffickers when he was 10 years old. Draco's father and mother were also looking for him, but they couldn't find him. They finally felt compelled to give up. They adopted another little boy from the orphanage and named him Cain. However, no one expected that. 3 years later, Draco returned by himself. At the time, he was covered in blood and mud. His eyes were hollow, and his hair was messy. The servants thought he was a beggar and even hit him with a broom before fleeing. But Lun recognized Draco and carried him to the hospital. At the time, Draco's father and mother were enjoying Cain's parents' meeting. When they found out Draco had returned, they ran to comfort Cain rather than worry about him. Instead, they assured him that even if his brother returned, his place in their hearts would remain unchanged. Cain remained their favorite son. Draco could hear these words clearly in the ward. Draco's mood had changed since his return. Instead, he became isolated and autistic. Nobody knew how he had spent the 3 years. When Draco's father and mother noticed this, instead of offering their son psychological counseling, they accused him of changing, of no longer being close to them, and of not being as good at pleasing people as Cain, who had finally felt my pain. They focused all of their attention on Cain at school. Cain led the class in laughing at Draco. They bullied him when he didn't speak, and they led others to believe Draco was the adopted son. While he was the true young master of the Draco family, he had to flee. Draco couldn't take it anymore and beat up everyone who bullied him. He even directly broke Cain's skull. Draco's mother slapped him in public, without regard for right and wrong. Everyone blamed Draco, and no one at school dared to be friends with him after that. Naturally, no one dared to bully him either. Butler Chan couldn't help but notice his eyes turning red. I saw the Y-Master grow up. Nobody knows the pain in his heart. So he decided to lead the Draco family. I too followed him without hesitation. I didn't want him to be alone and without anyone who genuinely cared about him. I patted Butler's chin on the back to comfort him, and promised to take good care of Draco in the future. There was nothing to be nostalgic about with those parents. It is fine if we never see each other again. However, I wasn't expecting that. A few days later, Draco's mother called. Draco and I were eating dinner, when he received a call from his mother asking us to go home for dinner tomorrow night. Draco initially refused to go, but they insisted on discussing something significant. Finally, we felt obligated. We've decided to go. As soon as we walked in, we noticed 3 people sitting on the sofa, chatting and laughing as they saw us. The smiles on Draco's father's and mother's faces faded slightly, but did not change significantly. Instead, he greeted me enthusiastically and complimented me on how much more beautiful I was than when I married. I smiled faintly and nodded. After a few rounds of conversation, I got a sense of Cain's abilities. His words were all flattering, but his gaze was filled with calculation and hypocrisy. It was clear that he wanted to win me over and make me stand on the opposite side of Draco. From time to he would also reveal the scar on his forehead. His words all suggested that Draco was a violent maniac who could beat me up at any time. It turned out that when a boy played the green tea game, girls were completely outmatched. I smiled while fighting back. How could this be? My husband only beats the bad guys. Hearing this, the entire room fell silent. Cain's smile couldn't be kept any longer, so he walked away awkwardly. He did not speak to me again. Later, Draco's father was talking to him about the company's affairs, when he abruptly changed the subject. Your younger brother graduated from university this year. Get ready to hand over your position to your younger brother. You can assist him in the future. A few years ago, the Draco family's group was merely an ordinary business. Draco's efforts over the years had propelled the company to its current position. Hearing this, Draco sneered coldly. Why should I? Draco's father slapped the table harshly. Just because you are my son and I founded this company, I can give it to whoever I want. Then you can see if the current board of directors will listen to you or me. Draco's mother was so enraged that she walked right over and slapped him. How could I have raised a son who would talk to your parents like this? I wish you'd been killed by human traffickers back then and never returned. Draco clenched his fists, turned his head to the side, and remained silent. Finally, having to experience the pain. We hadn't even had dinner when he dragged me away in the car. Draco didn't say anything. I was thinking about how to console him when he abruptly slammed on the brakes and parked by the roadside. I'm going to buy something. Please wait for me in the car, he said. Without waiting for my response, Draco exited the vehicle and walked away. After a long time, Draco hadn't returned. I was concerned that something had happened to him. So I got out of the car and searched for him. I walked for a long time and couldn't find Draco. I was scared and considered going back the way I came. However, I was stopped by a group of hooligans. Where did this chick come from? Why don't you go home so late? Come play with us, brother. I pretended to be calm and spoke coldly. It is none of your business. The leader sneered and reached out to place his arm around my shoulder. Stop pretending. Do not worry. Brothers will undoubtedly love you. I dodged sideways and took a few steps back, threatening. If you do not leave immediately, I will contact the police. Several people were unafraid. I kept backing away as they approached, until my back was against the wall and there was nowhere to go. Several people were still coming. I clutched the anti-war device in my bag tightly, ready to act. When they unexpectedly approached me before several others could. A large hand grabbed the man in the lead by the hair from behind, and slammed him against the wall with a bang. The man's head began bleeding immediately, and he screamed in pain. I took a closer look, and it was indeed Draco. Before the others could react, his eyes turned red, as if he were furious. He pushed everyone to the ground and beat them up. His fists were stained red with blood, and he could finally feel my pain. Several people fled in panic. Draco sneered at me as I stood there in a daze. Then he drew me into his arms and said, "Even if you are scared, I will not let you leave this life. You can only be mine." I collected myself and reached out to hug him back. "I'm not scared, but if you beat them up, you won't be able to touch me." Draco paused, buried his head in my neck, and then let out a low laugh. Silly girl. My stomach growled inappropriately. There was nothing I could do. I hadn't eaten dinner yet. Draco was much better off than before. He took my hand and led me to a delicious meal. Later, I noticed new scars on Draco's hands and realized he'd resorted to self-harm while avoiding me. Draco did not want me to see his wretched appearance. He did not want to die right now, but he couldn't help but want to hurt himself. He was unable to control it and could only conceal a small knife on his body. Draco's psychiatrist diagnosed him with extreme self-loathing in his heart. I removed his knife and told him he couldn't avoid me. We would face any episodes he had in the future together. Draco agreed following that. Draco's parents called several times and asked us to come over, but we declined each time. However, a few days later, my parents arrived uninvited, bringing Calypso with them. They claimed to have heard I was being abused at home, and wanted to come and help me. I sneered in my heart, wondering if they cared. Shouldn't they have come over the moment they heard about it? Sure enough, after only a few words, they revealed their real reason for visiting me. Calypso approached me about borrowing money while I was calculating the time. By this point, the Claudius family had essentially squandered their cash on Calypso. The entire family was waiting to suck her blood. Calypso's decision to come to me demonstrated her desperation. But she refused to reveal these details. She stated that her business was growing and she needed funds, so she came to borrow money from me. Naturally, I refused. Calypso's expression changed. "You have a lot of money anyway. You can't spend everything you find while hunting. Your husband will not allow you to go out either. You may as well give it to me. I will be a strong woman in the future. Please don't blame me for not warning you. If your husband goes insane in the future, you'll only have your parents' family to turn to. Are you sure you want to fight with me now?" I smiled. Faintly fall out. "Do you still feel any shame? I assumed you'd lost it long ago." Calypso angrily pointed to I was speechless for quite some time. Serafina noticed that Dad's face had darkened. Don't you even hear your parents' words anymore? Sorry. I have not wanted to listen for a long time. Dad reached out to strike me, but was stopped by the bodyguard. I asked the bodyguard to drive the three of them out. Calypso still wanted to curse me at the door, but her parents thought it was not very comfortable and dragged her back. This was the first time I had defied my parents' wishes since I was born, because I realized that constantly swallowing insults would not earn respect, but would only make matters worse. Draco hugged me from behind. He had just been upstairs and had heard everything. They made you angry. Let me help you get rid of them. I shake my head. Evil will always be punished. Finally, Mum called and scolded me harshly. She threatened to end our mother-daughter relationship if I did not help Calypso. That is precisely what I want. I hung up the phone and blocked her number immediately. I ran into Calypso again at a dinner party. She appeared flushed, and when she saw me her smile deepened. Sister, do you think I'll fail because you don't help me this time? My husband helped me secure Mr. X's investment. Claudia's family will soon make a comeback. I did not respond. I turned to look at Claudius. You got Mr. X. Claudia had an uncontrollable smug expression on his face, but he tried hard to appear humble and polite. I'll do anything to help Calypso, I sneered. Sometimes people pretend for so long that they believe it's true. Claudius took Calypso's hand and departed. Mr. Shah is over there. Let us go and thank him. Before leaving, Casso cast me a provocative glance and whispered, what you can do, I can do too. In my previous life, I received Mr. Z's investment, but I was already aware of Claudius' personality. He couldn't possibly have the means to secure such a significant investment, so I was on guard. True enough, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Sometimes the price is prohibitively expensive. Draco approached and took my hand, looking worried. What is wrong? I smiled and shook my head. Nothing. These were all Calypso's personal choices. Now I just needed to follow my path. The dinner party lasted until very late. Almost all of the guests would prefer to stay at the hotel for one night before departing. Draco and I were no exceptions. I got up in the morning and was about to head downstairs for breakfast. I heard Calypso's voice outside another room. Claudius, you are a jerk. You duped me and forced me to accompany Mr. X to secure the investment. You're useless, and you even gave away your wife. You're hardly human. Calypso gave Claudia a hard slap after saying that. Claudia showed no mercy and slapped her back, knocking Calypso to the ground. Otherwise, why do you believe he would invest? It is not as if you could borrow money otherwise. Would I've done this? I advise you not to cause a fuss. He now has an extensive collection of your photographs. If they are exposed, I will be unable to assist you. Claudius then left the room, leaving Calypso sitting on the ground in despair. When she looked up and saw me, Calypso rushed over, attempting to grab me. Why? You knew. Why didn't you let me know in advance? I dodged her attack and spoke in a calm tone. It was your decision. Calypso fell to the ground again and burst out laughing. So, in your previous life, you did the same thing I did. You are also a dirty one. We're both messy. Who is nobler than whom? We are both dirty. Calypso kept repeating it, as if doing so would bring me down to her level and make her happy. But in the next second, my response completely broke her down. I did not. Calypso widened her eyes. Impossible. How could a woman like you get out of a situation like yesterday's? Because I am tougher than they are. Calypso laughed incredulously, wondering how that was possible. How can a woman be stronger than a man? I didn't respond and walked past Calypso, leaving my previous life. Claudia's got me drunk and took me to Hao Kang's room. But they didn't realize I had built up my tolerance to alcohol throughout several business dinners and wasn't easy to get drunk. And I had been on guard against them from the beginning. As soon as I walked into the room, I activated the voice recorder on my phone. Chong tried to force himself on me, and I struggled desperately. Claudius was standing at the door of the room, but he did nothing. Chaikin assumed I was already trapped and did not hold back anymore, spouting all kinds of filthy language. Finally, I have to feel my pain. I immediately picked up the wine bottle on the table and smashed it on his head. I held the broken edge against his neck. If you dare to come forward, you will undoubtedly die. Chaikin threatened, if you dare to kill me, you will ruin your own life. Then we will die together. Perhaps I was overly terrified at the time. In the end, Chaikin lacked the courage to die alongside me and had to let go. As for why I let Claudius lead me astray despite my suspicions, it was because I needed this investment and needed to find something on X Kong. I was desperate at the time, and it was my last hope of turning a hopeless situation into a chance for survival. Fortunately, I won the bet because of the recording, and Chong eventually invested in our company. In the end, the company began to make progress, but Calypso lacked the necessary courage. She didn't even dare to leave. because she couldn't bear the thought of giving up the investment she had worked so hard for, only to be threatened and controlled again and again. No secret can be kept forever. Calypso's reputation quickly deteriorated. Everyone was secretly discussing her and Chang's affairs behind her back. Mom and Dad were highly disappointed in Calypso and believed that her behavior had caused them to lose face in front of their friends. Everyone wants to make a profit. They eventually distanced themselves from Calypso and came to please me. My relationship with Draco gradually became more stable. He even made a public decision to give me half of his company shares. He would leave as soon as he finished work. Immediately, he declined all business dinners and social engagements. There was not a single person of the opposite gender around him. He was cold to everyone else, and it wasn't until he saw me that he softened. I became the envy of everyone again. Everyone came to me for advice on how to manage my husband, and what tricks I used to get him to be so devoted to me. A month later, Draco and I attended the Industries Summit Forum, where we met Calypso and Claudius. Calypso lost her arrogance. She appeared haggard, and the bruises on her face could not be covered by foundation. People were secretly laughing at her, but she remained calm and chatted with them as if nothing had happened. She just looked at me like I was a stranger and walked right past me. Naturally, I would not take the initiative to greet her. However, I had not expected her to put a drug in the water that the waiter brought me and have someone send Draco away. When I was in a daze, she led me to a room on the second floor. "Sina, please do not blame me. Why should you reap all of the benefits in these two lives while I bear all of the burdens?" Chaikin stated that as long as I help him get you, he will let me go, so be good and don't resist. Just sleep with him, and everything will be fine. Calypso threw me on the bed and fled in a panic. I forced myself to open my eyes and noticed a fat, bald figure by the bed. Chang was approaching me step by step. I scarred my bag for the short knife that Draco had previously used to self-harm. Just as Chang was about to touch me, I forced myself to remain conscious and stabbed the knife into his palm. Chang grabbed his arm and screamed, "How could you have a knife? Woman!" I collapsed to the ground, cutting a gash in my arm with the knife. The pain made me a little more sober. I stumbled from the room. Someone hugged me and I wanted to struggle. "Serafina, this is me." When I looked up and saw Draco's anxious expression, I fainted peacefully. When I awoke again, I was already in the hospital. Draco was sleeping beside the bed, gripping my hand tightly. As soon as I moved, he awoke and called the nurse. He reluctantly held me in his arms after administering medicine to me as directed by the nurse. To let go for a long time, I stroked his head to soothe him. "Don't worry, I'm fine now, am I, Dracos?" The tone became gloomy. "Just thinking about that man wanting to touch you makes me want to cut off his hands. Then, based on what you said, no man can feel me in the future." "Of course not." After saying that, Draco tightened his grip on me even more. "However, you have previously touched other girls' hands at the summit. Should I be upset about it too?" It was a joke, but Draco surprised me by nodding. "This makes sense. Then Sina can cut off my hand as punishment." After saying that, he handed me the knife. Seeing as I did not make a move, Draco appeared upset. "Serafina does not chop it off. Is it because you don't like me that you aren't upset that I touched other girls?" I helplessly said, "You're insane." The next day, I learned from the bodyguard that when Draco discovered I was missing, he went insane looking for me, nearly preventing the summit from continuing. Later, after finding me in a second-floor room, Calypso attempted to step forward to stop him, but Draco kicked her. Draco sent me to the hospital and instructed the bodyguards to beat the three people severely. If the summit organizer hadn't intervened to stop it, I'm afraid things would have gotten out of control. Calypso was in the same hospital as me. After I recovered, I went to see her when Calypso couldn't get out of bed. "Are you extremely proud? Now that you see me this way?" I sat on the sofa opposite her. "Everything you see is the result of your actions." Calypso laughed, and it gradually became shrill. "I don't understand. We share the same background and parents. Why do you succeed no matter what you choose? So, whatever I choose, I fail. I am not reconciled. Why does God always favor you? God did not favor me. You were wrong. What has always mattered is the person making the decision, not the choice itself." Calypso sneered. "Don't you want to say that I am not as brave as you?" I gently shook my hand. "No. Your biggest mistake is that you always expect to get what you want from others and never consider achieving it through your efforts. However, every gift from God has already been priced. People cannot have everything they want. If you are too greedy, you will undoubtedly face the consequences. I was not the person who brought you to this state." Calypso looked at me with wide eyes. I got up and left without looking back. Behind me, I could hear Calypso's almost crazy voice. "You're lying. I did not lose. You're lying. After I was released from the hospital, Draco clunked me even harder. He blamed himself for what had happened to me, and wanted to carry me with him everywhere. My father informed me that Claudius divorced Calypso after she was discharged from the hospital, recently having completed, in my opinion. He appeared to be pursuing the daughter of a newly wealthy family. Calypso kept saying every day that she wasn't wrong and hadn't lost. My parents had no choice but to admit her to a mental hospital. Of course, Draco would not let XO off so easily. In less than a month, he forced Xiao King's company into bankruptcy. XOK also incurred a large debt and was forced to live a life of hiding here, finally feeling my pain daily. The police took him away on charges of robbery and involuntary manslaughter. Later I saw Calypso on the news. She escaped the mental hospital and stabbed Claudia with a knife. Claudia died during his wedding ceremony. When Calypso was apprehended, she was still mumbling, "It's entirely your fault." Calypso was not sentenced due to her mental health issues, but she would most likely spend the rest of her life in a mental hospital. When my mother found out, she called me on a new phone, her voice breaking, tears spilling through the line. She said she could only rely on me for the rest of her life. I gave a short reply, then hung up. They raised me, so I will repay them. But if they expect my love, my tenderness, I'm afraid they'll be disappointed. After all, I never received those things as a child. That winter, I found out I was pregnant. When Draco heard the news, he was so overjoyed he didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or hold me. In the end, I hugged him first. And then, like a boy who had just been handed the world, he scooped me up and spun me in circles. 10 months later, our daughter arrived, Serafina. The parents asked to see her. We refused. Draco looked down at our baby girl with eyes full of light, whispering, "I'll do everything I can to be a good father." I smiled. My heart soft and certain. We both will. We may have grown up without love, but our daughter, she will grow up wrapped in it. She will never doubt that she is the happiest child in the world. The end.